everyone, and welcome to another episode of In Conversations with Naomi. As always, I have the most amazing guests joining me today. Lee, welcome, and thank you
so
for
much.
joining In Conversations with Naomi.
Thank you for having me.
Tell our audience a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself so that they get to know who this awesome woman is that's joining us today.
That's very kind of you, and really appreciate the opportunity to be here, Naomi. Thank you for having me. My name is Larisha Naidu. Also, my friends call me Lee, so please
We all call you Lee. We all know you as Lee in the industry.
Exactly. So Lee Naidu. I am a lawyer by profession, so I practice as a competition lawyer at Baker McKenzie, which is an international law firm. It's been in South Africa for about 12 years, so just under its teens.
Yes, it's growing up now. It's growing out of the big boys or big girls, whichever one we want to say.
Thank you, indeed. So we've been growing and developing, and I've had the amazing opportunity to lead the office of Baker McKenzie in South Africa,
right,
as its managing partner. So I double hat as both a practitioner as well as a kind of manager leader.
Yeah, that is incredible. So I know that you were appointed about 3 years ago as the managing partner. There are not a lot of women that are managing partners in a global law firm, and that is an incredible feat. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
But I'm sure that also comes with a heavy burden. And just tell me about that experience of what it's been like for you operating in what we all know or still see as a very male-dominated industry.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I started out kind of wanting to be very deliberate and very intentional about this journey. So taking the time to develop foundations. Part of that was engaging with the industry as a whole. So to create the buy-in with clients and with competitors alike. So meeting fellow colleagues and saying, hey, I'm going to be taking up this position. I'd love your support. And getting the buy-in of other managing partners within the country, within the industry, from kind of big law.
Yeah.
The response was absolutely phenomenal. We have an industry that, while is considered to be slow to change, did embrace this change, and that helped. I mean, initially when I was asked to be the managing partner of the office, kind of fell on the floor, lay there for days.
I was like, what
are you talking about?
What are you expecting of me now?
Exactly. Yes. And I responded to say, well, I think that Baker McKenzie Global, I think that you guys are wrong. I mean, I don't know that South Africa can withstand this level of transformation on so many different kind of levels, kind of women, color, openly queer, young. So
it's all that intersectionalities that you now have to navigate and go and present.
Exactly.
To a what we all know, a very conservative market.
Exactly. So the first thing was securing the credibility of the market, the competition, the client base. That was one project. The other project was securing the trust of the internal stakeholders, getting that buy-in around it. I was initially not interested in it, and then I kind of thought, well, number one, this world needs bold moves.
Yes.
We need to, transformation requires that level of boldness and backing oneself, and so kind of step into it, lean into it a little bit, but also the trust building kind of started to work. There was kind of statistical information given about the average African age is 19.7.
Right.
You are accessible to the market.
And that is our client base, right?
And that is our client base. Exactly.
My previous guest that I had started his first business at 19.
Exactly.
That is our clients. It is looking for people that are relatable.
Right.
So not going and saying that I want a 70-year-old lawyer that have got years of experience. It's like, but you don't understand my challenges that I'm going through. So yes, we are ready for that kind of bold transformation.
Right, exactly. It's kind of trying to mirror the demographics of the population or the world that we're serving. And also kind of, pioneering a different form of leadership within the law firm context, one which kind of obliterates this hierarchical approach to leadership, one which kind of tries to encapsulate service, kind of humility, and kind of drives a type of leadership that places others in the light. I kind of then decided, okay, let me do this. Let me do something that kind of changes the face of what leadership looks like within a law firm context. Yeah. And it's been awesome.
And the firm has been doing really great in the market, even from a reputation perspective. A lot of my clients speak very highly of the firm. So you are indeed doing a very great job. And we all supporting you.
Thank you.
So fantastic.
Thank you so much.
What has been some of your highlights during the 3 years?
Yeah, it's been, there are so many. I think one of the highlights was developing trust around partners who would ordinarily have favored sameness in their. I mean, I sit in a partnership where I'm virtually the youngest partner. I don't like going into a boardroom and sitting at the head of the table because I believe in flatness. But I've had to kind of build that trust with partners around the room in a sustainable way, and seeing their support, seeing their backing has really been a triumph, I think, within the context of me being kind of stepping into my confidence and being able to do it. That's been one. The other is, another triumph is the transformation of the organization. I've been kind of very deliberate about making sure that we not only get people through the door, the diversity, but that we also kind of maximize inclusion. And inclusion is actually my focus. Because the problem with the industry, right, and I'm sure you would agree, is that people are not retained because they are not sufficient inclusive strategies to kind of keep them, to nurture them, to kind of develop them. And
so we bring them, but we
Exactly.
don't include them. So we want to have the stats to say that we've got so many women, we've got so many people of color, but our structures doesn't allow for them to feel like they're at home.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, the project has thus far been about quantitative transformation.
Yes.
It's about...
We meet a BE scorecard.
Exactly. But there's a revolving door, and once you tick a box, you know, people are kind of exiting. So kind of my biggest project has been, how do I develop an inclusive culture that maximizes the sustainability of the law firm? Because inclusion for me sits at the very heart of sustainability. So that's been an amazingly fulfilling project, to work with people from all across the organization to get them excited, enthusiastic about being part of something different, being part of something special. We've recruited, so we've got great talent that's come from law firms around the country, and it's been amazing to see the talent that's been walking through.
Want to be a place to work for, right?
Exactly. It's become a space where people are going, I actually want to go there. I want to go there, and I want to do this. And then I think perhaps one of the personal triumphs was, you know, being part of Casa Semenia's case. Because
so tell the audience a little bit about Casa Semenya, because we have people watching from around the world and they may not necessarily be familiar with the case. That was, from a South African context, one of our leading legal matters to be involved in.
Yes. an amazing opportunity to be part of the case. Casa Semenya is an athlete who was involved in running the 100-meter and was at the Olympics and was excluded on the basis of her essentially gender identity. And it wasn't actually. So there were regulations that were imposed that essentially required certain hormone treatment, and Casa Semenya asserted her right as a black woman, but these regulations actually impugned her gender identity. And so these regulations precluded her participation in World Athletics events, and as a result, she needed to kind of take that on. She won at the European Court of Human Rights, and it was taken on appeal to the Grand Chamber of European Court of Human Rights, where the matter is now pending. But the support around the world has been phenomenal.
Right.
We've acted for the Human Rights Commission in that case, and there's been incredible support for this idea of equality in sport. And it's just been a privilege to be a part of that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that goes back to the heart of what you wanted to do initially. So I know that you said you initially wanted to be part of social justice. I think you clerked with one of our deputy chief justices. Tell me a little bit about what sparked that when Lee was young and she thought of her life. Did you want to be a lawyer that was fighting for the underdog? How did the idea of social justice start for you?
So I grew up in Newlands West in Durban, which would be classified as kind of one of the group areas under the Group Areas Act. So a designated area for people of color, essentially. And in 1994, kind of post-democracy, when schools opened up, my parents found some funding through loans and so on to get me into what was referred to then as a Model C school. But growing up within Newlands, we were a community. There was a park in the middle of the area, and that park was kind of the resources that we had.
That's where everyone congregated. That's where you went to go play and meet all your friends.
And the parents would be braaiing there, and there would be music.
Yes.
And so music is a huge part of actually who I am and my own story. It's kind of integrally intertwined into I suppose who I am. But I was kind of a part of a space that found joy in the small things, found a deep sense of community. That is kind of the shoulders on which I stand. That community and where I come from. My mom was a social worker. She's retired now, so she managed children's homes in Durban. My dad was in labor relations work. And so we had a kind of huge sense of just over and above the community consciousness around the socio-political issues that kind of characterize our history and how we kind of navigated out of that. I then went to the school, this Model C school, and I was kind of probably the third person of color.
Wow.
To actually, I was 11 or 12 years old at the time. And it was an amazing experience in assimilation. Now that I look back at it, I remember saying, because I loved music, I remember saying to someone, to do you know that Boys to Men song?
Right.
And they looked at
They
me
were like, who's that?
and I remember being so crushed by that because
It's like,
this is
like what we live for.
like
we grow
when
up
we go to
with.
the park and there's so
Had to be exposed to a whole new set of
norms and
Yes, yes.
and a whole a whole environment that that created an adaptability that I hadn't had before. But I think to your question, why social justice?
Yes.
Growing up in a community where there was a level of gangsterism, there was socioeconomic inequality that was prevalent. There was a family with a deep sense of consciousness and a deep sense of activism. There was a desire for me to kind of do something beyond myself.
Yeah.
Did I dream big? No, I didn't. I didn't dream big at
Sometimes
all.
we weren't even given the tools to know how to dream big.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I ever had that in me to dream big. It was, just kind of navigating the day to day. But I always wanted to kind of make a difference because of kind of what I saw. So that's basically it.
I love that. So what made me want to become a lawyer?
Yeah.
I was around 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And my parents were for the very first time able to buy a property.
Yeah.
But they were buying a property from what was a previously white owner, and they needed to get permission from the government to buy this property. So now, as the baby in the family, no one else to look after me, my parents take me to a law office, and there was a person that looks like me. But I really fell in love with the books.
Right.
And the huge
The law reports.
I'm like, this looks fun. So that idea kind of like kept on playing in my head. And when people would ask me, what do you want to be? I'd say, I want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to be everything else in between until at the age of 12. So talking about the desire for social justice and to make an impact, my brother died. It was my eldest brother. Thank you. My eldest brother, and he was the dream in our family. So I think he was the one that like instilled those kind of like dreams in me. And he had a property, actually had 2 properties. My parents go to his law office, or to his lawyer's offices, and they say, okay, so, how do we do his estate? Let's get this done. But during that process, the typical how lawyers get a bad name, that was the type of law firm that my parents was dealing with. So they were like, just sign the documents and make us an executor, and no, your son doesn't have all these properties. He only has one. And they were like literally putting so much pressure on my parents. And my mom, I used to call her Sherlock Holmes. She's like, something is not right here.
Right.
She took my hand, she told my dad, let's get out of here. And she decided that she's going to run that estate. She was just going to get someone that can support her from a legal perspective, and she ran the estate. But like my parents were so traumatized by that experience, and at that point, I told myself, I'm going to become a lawyer, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to fix this. And I think that's for me where that desire to really make an impact, and for me to really want to become a lawyer again. And then again, I took my law degree, and I made everything else out of it, and not just pure law or legal. So yeah.
That's a great story.
I know. So tell me then, after you finished with high school, you studied to become a lawyer, you got into the Constitutional Court, and then how did we get from there to having you as managing partner of a global law firm now?
I must say the one message I kind of like to share is that I was not a strong student at school. Mainly because I found school to be too square and too constraining and confining of kind of creativity and different approaches to learning. It put me into a position where I thought, I've got other talents.
Yes.
And those talents were mainly around adaptability, around people, around connection. I thought that was kind of
And those
more
weren't the things that were measured, right?
No, and those were not the things. So I thought, okay, I needed, and so my mom said, you need to go to an educational psychologist because you're kind of all over the place. So, and I did some tests, and they said, okay, well, you are really good with words, and law was at the top of it. So I was like, okay.
If law needs words, let's do this.
Exactly.
Law definitely needs relationship building and relationship skills, right?
Right. Not that that's part of the curriculum at all, actually, but
It is not, unfortunately.
Exactly. There's some gaps, but so I studied my first semester. And then I started doing really well. So kind of the very opposite of school.
Right.
Where school was kind of pressing me down.
Yes.
I was suddenly,
Top performing.
and I didn't, and so I kind of intuitively I just wanted to kind of put my heart and soul into it, and got results which kind of got me a spot at the Constitutional Court. And the reason I chose to apply to the Constitutional Court is because of the social justice passion and really wanting to be there. And it was one of the most phenomenal experiences of the most phenomenal experience of my career, in the sense that you get to engage on topics that and issues that are so fascinating. The first case I ever dealt with was the case of the MEC for Education against Pele, which was a case around a young girl going to school that wanted to wear a nose stud.
Wow.
And the school wanting to kind of reject her on the basis of, the wearing of the nose stud. Yes. And so we were kind of on, as clerks of the court, having to engage in a debate around, okay, well, and I remember the most kind of prolific question in that case was, okay, so counsel for the Minister of Education, are you telling us that ear studs are okay, but nose studs are not okay? And so,
what's the difference between the two? Is the ear more important than the nose?
And that's what the answer. Well, ears are kind of a time-honored and tradition. And the question was, whose tradition? And so we kind of started to unpack that, and ultimately the court found in favor of the young girl. And cases like that, where a female person within a tribe applied on the basis of male primogeniture, sought to become the chief of the tribe, and on the basis of male primogeniture was rejected, and so had to come to the Constitutional Court. And being part of cases like that was just absolutely phenomenal. And then I went to this law firm,
right,
because I signed with them.
Right. Prior to, or while you were still at the Constitutional Court,
Yes. Yeah. So they signed with me because I was doing well at university, while I was still at university. So I was obliged to kind of get into this corporate space. And I went in there and I thought, oh my word, how am I going to, after this incredible, colorful, rich
were you changing
experience,
the trajectory of South African law? Were you literally going from a place where you are creating opportunities for people that the law doesn't support it, and now you've got to go to how we know the hierarchical, very structured, very law firm approach?
Exactly. I mean, it was like this crazy juxtaposition between a space where you felt transformative to a space where you felt square. And I've never done well in square. It's just never been me. So I clerked for Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke, and he said to me, change is something that shouldn't just be in civil society groups and organizations that are kind of NGOs and NPOs. Change has to happen everywhere. And so go do this thing, but kind of try to be an agent in your own unique way. So I was like, okay, let me do this. So I went in there, and it was it was a different environment initially. I struggled. Extremely hierarchical, as I said, very autocratic, not inviting of difference. I've told the story before, but I was invited into the partner's room, his office, to say, "You're doing really well, Lee. You're super impressed with the work product, but when you interface with clients, you need to, maybe wear some heels."
And you went out to buy some heels. What happened to those heels, by the way? I was like, I will take those heels off Lee's hands if she wants me to.
We had a heel burning ceremony.
Oh, that's a good ceremony to have too.
Exactly. So
I love how you describe it when you were imagining. Is it the pink bag?
Exactly. How am I gonna do this? But it was a really important lesson because it taught me early on that if I undermine my authenticity in the space, I'm going to fail.
Yes.
Because actually, my ability to be as effective as I can be depended on me being me.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I kind of rejected the heels thing and carried on being me. And slowly, people started to accept me into the fold.
Yes.
I started off being less effective because I left myself at the door.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started to kind of assert that authenticity more and
started
more,
bringing
and
your
more
whole self to the office.
Yes.
You also start becoming better at who
Exactly.
you are.
Exactly. You become a better leader. You become a better lawyer, because I kind of showed up.
Yeah.
And so I continued being a competition lawyer at the firm that I was at, and then moved across to Baker McKenzie. But I made a point of kind of, when I moved to Baker McKenzie, being entirely unapologetic of everything. So this is who I am.
You love it or you don't.
And if you don't, that's super, super cool, because I am cool with realizing that law firm life is not for me.
Yeah.
So I've got kind of, very little to lose. I'm going to come in here and let's just do this. So I kind of got in there. This is who I am. I work very hard, but I'm going to show up. I'm going to tell you what I think, respectfully.
Yes.
But I'm going to tell you what I think. Yeah. And let's see if this works. And I found that the environment was embracing of that voice. The more I was able to use my voice, the more my voice was invited. And the more I was able to invite other voices.
Yes.
And so it became a pay it forward thing. Yeah. And the rest is history.
Yeah. But that is not easy to do. To know what an environment is expecting of you, because they often talk about systems thinking. It's hard for one person to change an entire system, an entire structure. And I think it's that very part where we can't always bring our whole self to the office that pushes really talented people, not only out of the law firm structure, but so many other structures where they feel that they couldn't do it. What would your advice be to people? Because I know, I think it's that experience that made me not want to practice law. Because I was always told that you are too vibrant for law. You wear too bright colors.
Yeah.
Lawyers got to wear black. And yes, I love black, but black is not my only color that I love. And it's like, a lawyer actually asked me, why didn't you study marketing? You should have been a marketer. And I was like, why can't a lawyer be creative?
Yes.
But what advice do you have if there are young lawyers looking at you right now and ask you, Lee, how did you do it? How did you bring your authentic self still?
Yeah, it's a great question, because actually, I think the answer is building trust. But just back to your point around your own story, I think that's what law firms have failed at. They focus too much on diversity and not on inclusion.
Yes.
And because they don't focus enough on inclusion, people don't show up as themselves, and they lose talent in that way because they don't have inclusive strategies that nurture talent.
Yes.
Right? So
and talent by themselves is diverse.
exactly.
Even women, you can have black women, but you've got such a diverse range of people in that particular structure.
Exactly. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm very passionate about this topic, so
I love it. Share as much as you want to about it.
I once read a book called Identity and Violence. It's by a Nobel Peace Prize author named Amartya Sen.
Yeah.
And he writes about a very topical issue in the book, violence in Gaza, and why that violence, as an example, and it's just an example, is because people identify themselves singularly. I'm identifying you by your religion, and that's why we're fighting. So violence actually arises from the singular identification of people, whereas actually we are multifaceted identities, right, Naomi? Yes. You and I have potentially some things in common, but a multitude of things that are not in common, because there are layers. You know, are you a mom? Are you a music lover? What community did you grow up in versus what community do you love travel? Where do you love travel?
People in the same community has got that multiple identities, right?
Right. It's the layers, and I think that inclusion is about appreciating the layers and finding connection in relation to those layers. So one of the things I did was to try and look at this identity and find commonality with people that were different from me.
Yeah.
So yes, optically, you might be a white male and I might not, but what other parts of our identities are common? Let's connect on stuff outside of what makes us different. And you can only do that if you tell stories. Yeah. So for me, storytelling, and this is an amazing platform,
and
right?
Thank you.
It's an amazing platform.
That story.
It's an amazing, because I think storytelling is part of the transformation of this world.
Yes.
So when people kind of share, there's kind of opportunities to connect, and so how did I do it? I tried to build trust. And I think trust is there's trust in terms of your character, there's trust in terms of your capability, there's trust in terms of your communication. So I wanted to kind of make sure that I was trustworthy on all those things. Yeah. I want to be a principled person. I want to speak up for things. I want to work very, very hard and be super competent, or not even competent, because it isn't a question of competence. It's actually a question of hard work. Be super hardworking and build trust. And kind of once you kind of build trust on all of those things, I think you start to
almost earn the token to be able to be yourself.
Exactly.
It's a burden on us, but nonetheless, it is what we work with to be able to get that trust.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, why, I could have kind of asked the question, why do I need to do this? Why can't I just be myself? I mean...
And fight the system.
Yeah. Why do I have to incur the energy of having to overcome stuff here? Why? But to ask that why is to unlock history and struggle and all the things over which I have no control
over.
Right. Only thing I have control is that this is my lot in life. And I need to move forward.
And how do I work within this lot that I've given to benefit me in the ultimate and like at the end of this process?
And so one of the things is build trust. And once you kind of build trust, then start to tell people your story.
Yeah.
And they will buy into that.
It almost starts giving you that license to operate I mean, like even as companies, they need to prove themselves for someone to invest.
Yeah.
They want to have a business case. Why would my money be worth it to give to you as a business?
Yeah.
And I think so often I find that with some of our young lawyers and even people in business, they want to walk into a law firm and immediately have the authority to be able to do certain things, be able to get the particular client, but you need to work to get your own license to operate within your environment.
Sure. And for every layer of your identity that is different, you need a different license.
Wow.
There's a couple of licenses, right?
We're still getting our licenses, right?
And we're still getting licenses.
I mean, like, when are we going to stop
We're
paying
still
now?
applying
Like, right? It's now been beep, yes.
Exactly.
Can we just like operate now?
There's definitely also ageism in this profession,
True,
right? You need lots of licenses for that.
Right. And that doesn't just come from the legal industry.
No.
We get that from clients.
Sure.
Do you have any interesting stories of what you've experienced around ageism?
It's just you ask kind of what have been some of the triumphs. I mean, one of them has been having had a large multinational invest in me to the exclusion of others, and investing in kind of very public matters that helped me build a profile.
Yes.
And that multinational works with Lee. Yeah. And therefore, I also want to work with Lee because they trust her. Therefore, I want. And it's that kind of association bias.
Yes.
That's been a triumph. But there are a number of very highly competent young lawyers who stand behind the face of those practices.
Yeah.
And they are doing the work.
Yeah.
But they are not standing in their light because they are young.
Yeah.
And I think that more and more we have to encourage law firms to enable people to stand in their own light. To grow. So what have been some of the experiences? It's been clients that view age as a barrier to kind of the prospects of success.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you young, how are you going to win this matter for me? Or they walk in and go like, are we waiting for the partner?
Exactly.
And people have had that kind of experience. It's like, no, it's me. I am
the partner.
Yes. I'm the one that's going to win you this case, right?
Yes.
But I want to pick up on, you say there are some really strong and competent lawyers that stand behind so much of the successes. That's where leadership comes in. Because leadership is about taking your team, taking the people who are responsible for those successes and showing them up. Taking them to the client and say, you know what, it was actually Lee that has found XYZ case that supports your matter, or it is Naomi that sat up all night to draft this incredibly complex agreement for you. And I haven't often seen that type of leadership being displayed in our industry.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's changing. We have the likes of yourself being that leader at Baker's, and you talk about balancing being excellent at what you do, but also passion, innovation, and bringing all of that into your environment. Being in a traditional law firm or traditional industry, how do you balance that, all of those aspects, and how were you able to successfully integrate it into your practice?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, why can't I be creative and be in a law firm? I love that question because I believe that creativity belongs everywhere.
Yes.
Actually, this life is a creative life.
Right.
We create all the time.
Yes.
And so part of my contribution is to be creative within a law firm context and demonstrate that creativity has its place. That means trying to always think outside the box in an innovative way, but also exemplify a form of leadership that has not been a popular style of leadership within this context. And what do I mean by that? I mean shouting out others. So we have, for instance, a reward program at Baker McKenzie Johannesburg where we invite people to celebrate other people. And celebrating others is considered to be a value that we recognize. So I don't want to know about you anymore. I don't want to know what you did anymore. I want to know who you're celebrating. And that's because I can't touch every single person in the organization. I've got to create a structure that ensures reach of this leadership style. And so part of that is going, leadership is not a title.
You can lead from right at the bottom of the organization.
So I want to know how people are exemplifying leadership. We are all leaders here. Let's move beyond this idea that we're in a hierarchical leadership structure, and let's empower people to be leaders. You are not just a lawyer. You are not just a business developer or a marketing manager or an accountant. I want to know how you're leading in your space, in your microcosm. So the kind of style of leadership is to kind of propel a network effects type of leadership approach that gets everyone going.
Yeah. And that cultivates that kind of thinking in each and every one instead of, and this is so transformational. I absolutely love this because if anyone here knows what a traditional law firm is about, it's me and my billable hours and how much money I am bringing in, because that is going to get me to the next level and I'm going to become junior partner and equity partner. And it is just like, how can I bring you down? Or how can, I need to get to the top, right? So how did your business embrace this type of leadership from you? How are they engaging with it? Have you found any resistance?
So I led the competition team.
Yes. And
the style of leadership within that small space resulted in positive effects for the bottom line. And so there was kind of some appreciation for the fact that the leadership style had positive effects. Okay, but then I then took on this role, and one of the things I said was, okay, cool, I'll do the role. I'll kind of lead the office, but I need to be assured that I can do it authentically.
You need to be empowered to do that, right? I
need to be empowered to do that. If my authenticity is in harm's way, remember, I mean, from that heel story, I decided I was going to.
Yeah. This is it.
I'm not.
You're not seeing me.
I'm not doing those. My knees, my ankles are not.
It's very hard to walk on these little babies, so I do not blame you.
If it's hard for you, you can imagine it was impossible for me, right?
Right. And you look beautiful. I love your style of dressing, by the way.
Thank you so much. I mean, so can I do this authentically? Yeah. And they said yes, and I said, okay, cool. I want to start from scratch on a people strategy because I believe that if you focus on people, people focus on outcomes. And I want to detach from the outcome. I want us to focus on this people strategy. That is kind of going to be the legacy or the hallmark of the leadership style. A law firm that focuses on how to be transformational from a people perspective. By the way, clients loved it. Because clients
don't care.
And also, they don't want you to abuse your associates.
No, they don't care about the billable hour, I mean. Client wants service.
Right.
Do you know me? Do you understand me? And are you able to deliver to me?
Right.
And that abusing your powers or it's not actually doesn't align with their values.
I think the way the world is moving, in this kind of macrocosm of activism is that we need to be values-based.
Yes.
We need to approach everything we do in a manner consistent with a set of values. And we need to drive that forward. So I think that the clients actually love the idea of a law firm. I don't know whether clients in general love it or not, but I've seen a positive response to the idea of creating a law firm that is values-driven and purpose-driven, and that aligns with what our clients' values and purpose is.
Yes. What I hear all the time is that firstly, we want to work with people whose values definitely align with us. And secondly, people who understand me, who understand my problem and understand what it is that I'm going through. The pressure that your in-house legal team is under is immense. So when you go to a law firm, you do not want to be told, oh, I'm going to draft this whole long 20-page. What does the law say? It's like, just give it to me in business language, in layman terms. So that is where the entire world is definitely moving towards. And I think that is where the pressure is also on law firms to start looking at value rather than billing your clients.
I couldn't agree more. A couple of things. One is, I want to develop relationships with clients that are sustainable.
Yeah.
So part of that is not billing for every hour, but developing a sustainable connection that shows that this is not transactional.
Yes. We're working with you.
We are with you. Yeah. We're on this journey together.
Yes.
And I think that's one kind of piece to it. And the other is empathy. Because I think empathy means standing in the shoes of someone else. And I think what we as law firms need to do better is stand in the shoes of the person walking through that door. Who are they? They're an internal legal advisor that has stakeholders to manage. Yeah. They have to transform legal language into business language. Yeah. They have to communicate in an accessible way. And so if we stand in those shoes, and then we come back, we give the product that best suits, the
industry or where you are at or what they need to have.
Exactly.
There's something that you mentioned at an event that we were at. You say use your voice, even if it shakes. One of my colleagues actually had that on her status yesterday. I'm like, that is a leak.
Wow.
Talk to me about having to use your voice even when. And it's not that women never had voices. It's that we weren't always heard. We sometimes used our voice, shaking, as it may be. Tell me, when did you get into a place where you felt you could use your voice and people are now hearing and they are listening to you?
Yeah. Sheesh, it's a really, really great question. There were some challenging parts of the journey where I would see behavior within a corporate context that I didn't like. One of the examples was where a client made a racist remark about a receptionist to me and someone else. And in that moment, I had to decide. The comment was something like, "Oh, the receptionist got it wrong. You know how they are." Something like that. Something like some royal they.
Yeah.
And I needed to decide, do I want to be on this matter or not? So didn't sleep that night. In a law firm, what do you want to be on the matter.
Yes.
Because
it starts building that portfolio.
You need the portfolio.
The credibility that you want in that particular area.
And so I slept, woke up, and I just couldn't be on. So I walked into the partner's office and I said two things. One, I don't think we should work with this client. Or at least we need to report this to the CEO of the company or whatever it is. and need to work with someone else within the client, but there needs to be some consequence for that. And number two, if you want to continue working on the matter, then I can't work on the matter anymore. I respect your right to do it.
That was bold.
So it was bold, and I felt that was probably going to be fired or work
or
out.
that's where your promotion is coming to an end.
Exactly.
You'll be stagnant at that particular structure.
I think I kind of also packaged it in a way to say, look, I understand, but this does not sit with my internal guidance. And so my voice was shaking in that conversation.
I can understand that it would be.
But in using it more and more in those kind of micro situations, you kind of start to, another example, at some point, are you going to bring, people must bring their husbands or their boyfriends to this thing or whatever. And I had to find the courage to say, can I bring my girlfriend?
Right.
Right.
It's partners, people. Like
partners. So when you kind of need to confront these things more and more and more, your voice starts to, from shaky, it starts to become sturdy.
Yeah.
And sturdier and sturdier and stronger. And
after a while, it becomes easy to speak up. And also to speak up on behalf of others.
On behalf of others. The other thing that I now try to do with others is when people are speaking and they're uncomfortable, I try to nod. And because you don't understand how important
courage it took.
And how much courage it took, and how important affirmative body language gives someone more courage to kind of continue. So, so those are kind of the little things. But I think using the voice became a little bit stronger as I kind of used it more. And it was all in kind of, as I say, little micro situations, and that built up the courage over time.
But it's easy to also ignore those micro little things that happen because you go, it was just a comment in passing. But how important it also is to speak up. You spoke up for that receptionist. She never even knew something was being said, right? And hopefully all of those small actions starts resulting in bigger change in different mindsets, in different ways of which we approach it. So never underestimate the power of those small actions and speaking up for that.
Yeah, I mentioned to you at the beginning of this chat that I didn't dream big. I don't believe in revolutionary change. I think revolutionary change is not sustainable. I think that marginal gains are actually where we can make a difference. Yeah. And so the little things do matter. Yeah. Again, it goes back to the heels. One has to always kind of be authentic. And it's scary and it's daunting. But for me, the courage was never in armory and bravado. Courage was never about that. Courage was about kind of vulnerably pushing the authentic voice at all times, even when you're scared, even when you're stressed, even when there might be a consequence, just doing it anyway. And I agree that comes from a place of privilege, because actually when you're someone going into organization and you're kind of this big corporate
machine, where do you start?
Where do you start? But you start with the small you start by talking to your friend.
Yes. You start with where you're at.
You start with your fellow candidate attorneys. And so that they understand the fabric of who you are. Practice being authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So Lee, what do you do for fun? What is Lee outside of being the managing partner of carrying the weight of the entire firm on your shoulder? There's got to be times where you just say, This is me. I forget about law. What is law? I've never heard of it.
Exactly.
Don't talk to me. Like, don't you hate it when you're a woman? Someone goes, can you just give me advice? It's like, no, I'm not that kind of lawyer.
Exactly. What do I do for fun? So I love music.
Voice to me?
Voice to me. Well, it's a very taste, and I listen to all sorts of things. We speak about creativity and imagination. I had an imaginary friend growing up. That was Janet Jackson.
That's a good friend. Did she teach you dancing?
Come on, Janet.
Let's go dance.
Dinner time, Janet. But I love music, and I try to listen to put myself in spaces where I can be subsumed by music. One of the kind of highlights of my life was meeting Lauryn Hill.
Wow.
The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was kind of one of the coolest albums ever for me.
Right.
In fact, number 14 on that album.
Oh my gosh, you even know what
I know
number,
the numbers.
right? You're a music.
I'm a music buff. Well, number 14 is called The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and there's a paragraph in there. There's a kind of lyrics in there which I constantly refer to, and the words are, every time I thought I would be what someone else thought of me, I got so caught up that I wasn't able to achieve. And so, you know, it's this thing of I'm not going to be caught up in what other people want me to be. But music's my thing. I had this amazing opportunity of meeting Lauryn Hill when she did her Miseducation tour. I'm going to go see Jill Scott in a few weeks.
Awesome. Where's she performing?
At the DSTV Delicious Festival.
Awesome.
So anyway, so I love going to and following people on that, and also going to kind of support local artists and local art. So I love that. I love people. I love hanging out with people. I love learning about people. I love reading books. I love kind of supporting African literature in particular.
Any African artists that have written a book that we must read?
Oh man, there's so many. I'm currently reading Nervous Conditions, Tsitsi Dangaremba. Mm-hmm. Brilliant, beautiful. I think it's awesome. A schoolwork as well. I think. But there's lots. I'll send you a list.
Please do. We'll share it with our audience.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, those are some of the things. I mean, I think it's important to be present.
Yes.
So
and present in every situation that we're in.
Yes.
Like sometimes we can be at home, but you're so caught up thinking about what you need to go back and do that you're not always 100% present.
Exactly. I think work-life balance is kind of a fallacy. Okay, for me.
Unfortunately, it is the case for, I think, everyone.
I think the better approach is be present. When I'm listening to something in my ears, let me be in that moment. And then when I'm working, let me be in that moment. But kind of practicing mindful presence at all times for me is kind of the way. But those are some of the things that I love to do. But yeah, I'd probably put music as kind of number one.
The first place I met you was actually at the art studio that Baker McKenzie had an event at.
Okay.
Down in Rosebank.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that was...
yeah.
Amazing.
So you definitely do support art and support local art. Yeah, awesome. Lee, is there any nuggets that you want to share with our audience? Is there any advice that you may have for not just younger lawyers, but anyone building their career and that you believe that they should know?
Yeah, I mean, I think practicing authenticity. You know, people say be authentic. I think that word be places too much of a burden on people. Because how do you just be it? I think you should practice it.
Right.
I think you should kind of continue to move towards how can I be more of myself every day.
Yeah.
Until you get to that place where you can truly exemplify
until you have that right to like really just be 100% yourself.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's probably a really big one for me. And then I also think kind of being realistic that that there's light and shade. You know, that things can be amazing, but they can be hard.
And they can coexist.
And those two things can coexist. And there are gifts in both of them.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's about light and shade and embracing light and shade and kind of moving forward. So
we have the angel and we have the devil both on each shoulder. So light and dark coexist.
No, we've got to... but no, there's certainly gifts in the challenges. Pushing through that with resilience is important. You can only really change stuff when you get to a place of influence, and so part of being influential is sticking in it and moving through it.
And sometimes sticking with it is not always easy, but the reward that you get at the other side.
Yeah, and the opportunity for impact. How do you, I mean, there's a quote, and I can't remember the exact words of it, but the quote is, who better to change a broken system than someone who has seen all the rusty parts up close and personal?
Yeah. You know where the leaks are. You know how to fix it.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's easier to fix from the inside. Like, I love that you came into corporate instead of, you know, being on the outside of trying to fix social justice. Because with money comes influence.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, where the money sits in our societies is always with corporate. So that's how we can change, and that's how we could influence.
Exactly. No, I think the point is that change can happen anywhere. And should happen everywhere, actually.
Yeah.
You know, even in civil society groups, you know, it's naive to say that there's no misogyny in civil society groups.
Sometimes it's even more prevalent.
I mean, there's no utopian place that doesn't come with its social
because there's
issues.
humans everywhere. And human beings are not perfect.
Right.
And we will lie to ourselves if we think anyone is perfect.
Exactly. And also, you know, I mean, the other thing that I think's cool is when you show up as yourself, it's also okay to express your vulnerability. I knew I wasn't a great kid at school, or I wasn't perfect there.
I was terrible in school.
You know? Let's own that stuff.
I know, I do.
Yeah.
I was actually very lucky that I got into university. But I do not give up. If I want something, I will go after this. Like, oh, so you say I can't get in through... So I for my first year, I didn't get into law school. I did a BA, and then I did all the subjects I needed to. And I was like, okay, now I jump over to law.
Amazing.
I'm here, hi. If you don't find the front door...
Sure.
Go knock at the back.
Exactly.
If you have to go through the chimney, hell, do that.
Make a plan.
Make a plan. And that's what South Africans are so well known for, right? Mark a plan.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Last thing I want to say, and then I'm going to ask the team if I've missed anything. Thank you for changing your title on LinkedIn. Please tell me why it took you so long.
Yeah, so I didn't feel the need. So I'm not someone that, you know, can bellow from the rooftops around achievements and stuff. And I felt that kind of credibility needed to be kind of earned before.
You've earned it.
Before I said
you
it.
have earned it. When you were given the title, you earned it.
I also don't believe that titles,
of course,
in and of themselves, signify something.
Yes. Agreed.
And so I struggled to change it for a while. And I was kind of always encouraged by people. Hey, your title is still the old title, or your email signature doesn't, or your business card doesn't. And I'd say, no, man,
We'll get to it.
Yeah, it's not important. Not important. But it feels like it was probably important for others.
Yeah.
And so I did change it and explained that I'm changing it because someone told me you've got to see it to be it. And so hopefully that kind of sparks this idea that leadership positions are accessible and they're possible.
Yes.
And you kind of need to keep that eye on the prize.
Yeah. There are many people out there that may not be able to visualize the possibility.
Yeah.
And looking at how few of us in the industry is able to charter new ways.
Right.
We need to be able to do that for them to see that it's possible.
Right.
And as South Africans, I find that we've also been taught to almost be over humble about certain achievements. It is my exposure to studying in the USA where I changed my mind, because I would come in and imposter syndrome was always like a big thing. And as I started engaging, I realized, but we have so much more to offer and to give, but sometimes people need to see it or they need to hear it.
Yeah.
And I think from there was the start of me kind of ideating even with this podcast, because that's what I want to do. I want to give platforms for people to share their story. You were saying storytelling is important. It's important for others to hear their story. It's important for others to know that, yes, I can. Yes, it is possible. And as cliched as that sound, for me, it was seeing a lawyer of color in that industry where it's like, if he can do it, then it's not so hard and it's not so impossible. So thank you for changing your title.
No, thank you. I mean, I think part of it was, how can humility for me is a skill set of the future. How can you be a humble and servant leader and kind of care about that? But what I failed to understand in that whole thing is that it's not so much about me caring about it, but by me communicating it so that it is accessible to others.
Yes.
And I miss that.
You didn't miss it, you just delayed it.
Exactly.
Not a missed opportunity at all. Lee, this was absolutely an enlightening conversation. Thank you for making the time.
For me too, I really enjoyed spending some time with you, Naomi, and hearing about some of your journey as well.
Absolutely. I will share my entire journey when we do In Conversations with Naomi.
Okay.
With Naomi.
Amazing. I'd love to see that.
It's coming.
Amazing.
In the meantime, this is a small token of appreciation from our team at NG.
Thank you so much.
Just to say thank you for giving your time.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Really appreciate being here. And this is very kind. Not necessary, but very kind.
They are giving that from the bottom of their heart. So, and Jay also believes in the vision of storytelling. They tell African stories through their brand.
Amazing.
And so when we spoke to them, they were also very happy to come on board with the incredible production team that's here with us today.
Awesome.
So, before we go, would you just tell our audience where they can find you? If anyone would like to follow you on any of your social media platforms, please do share with us. And you're welcome to look into the camera.
This is going to be really bad because I'm not really a social media person at all. So
Okay.
What do we do?
You're on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn and
Find her on LinkedIn and follow Baker McKenzie.
and follow Baker McKenzie South Africa. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Love that. Thank you for
Absolutely.
that.
You're most welcome. I'm actually also only really good on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Everything else I'm like,
Yeah.
Can someone do this for me?
Exactly. No, social media is not my thing, but LinkedIn is a great platform.
It is a great platform.
And I've enjoyed that one. Yeah.
Because people also, it's almost like you're learning, plus engaging, and just like growing the entire industry more. So yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys. And thank you to all of you. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.